Hey.
Hello, hello.
Hey. Ruben and I are like properly.
Hello. Wow.
Hello, everybody. Sorry for being late. I didn't realize. Hi, Ruben. Never see you from this angle. So, welcome, everybody. This is the 5th of June, EMEA, America time zone. We have a small announcement, like last time, just a reminder, since we have the last hours for the engagement survey. And we start to have a discussion topic that I didn't finish to write. Maybe we can start to, I'm going to verbalize it and then I'm going to add my notes on that. During the 16.0 release, we had a problem with release.gitlab.net and with the QA jobs. So this is actually something that probably, especially in a major release, something like that, when we are time constrained, we don't want to have these kind of problems. And everything that affects our monthly release, especially a major one, I think something should be treated as with a very high priority. So I put this item in the agenda to understand from the team, what do you think about that? And in particular, what do you think needs to be done to be able to not incur in this problem in any release, not even a major one? So we can define maybe which are like the main working items on that, and maybe we can start to prioritize some of this work and solve this problem once for all.
So I would like to add something to this because I'm actually working for the past few hours on this with SREs and QA. So on this specific issue, it seems like that something changed in 16.0 so that when we process outgoing emails and it failed, something changed. And so 3 years ago, we misconfigured release. So it never sent outgoing email because of a wrong port in the SMTP server. And with 16.0, it started failing badly because we have a lot of errors. And what we are thinking is happening there is that every QA job that is generating an outgoing email is basically failing and keep failing and slowing down the sidekick on that single node. And so all the QA failures, and they happen when things run in parallel because it can't keep up with the amount of SMTP failures. We're talking about 30 seconds timeout for each one. So very likely those jobs are sitting there for 30 seconds doing nothing and then retry, right? So this is what is happening.
Mm-hmm.
What happened to me that I realized today when I was doing this is that we don't really have, no one has really good understanding of how release is configured, who owns it, we own it. But basically, so things like we are slow it down. Where should we take a look at? And we've been left with asking the on-call engineer, the SRE on-call, to just SSH into the box and try to do some manual checks because we had no dashboard, no anything. And so being this vital component in the release cycle, probably should just improve the monitoring in general, and maybe also our level of troubleshooting as release managers, right? So that everyone in the team can do some basic understanding of what if that it's a single instance machine, so it should be easier than debugging HA system, but I had no idea what to do, right? So
okay, so having better observability around this should be probably the first requirement that we need to improve, as far as I understood, Alessio. So this is a single node, right? Release. even when we have more observability, do you think having this as has to be a VM, this one, or it has to be or it can be on Kubernetes? Do we want to, the question is, do we want to keep testing omnibus on this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this has to. The work that Graham's doing with the release, well, the work Graham was doing with the release environments before he pulled them off, kind of has an assumption that we'll still have release at the end of that process to have the omnibus test. So yeah, this needs to stay as VMs, single node, sorry, something that runs omnibus.
Would be any need to have this not a single node but a multi-node node, even if it's on VM on this?
Well, the downside of this is that it will take more time to deploy.
Okay.
And more in general, when we're talking with the engineers from quality, they basically told, we're not count. So those instances tends to be downscaled compared to our reference environments, but the QA test is not that big of a load, right? So the load that QA is putting on the system is not even compatible with the smallest reference target architecture, which is 1K users, I think, right? So it shouldn't fail. Right, so that's even with a thing, because there are many shops out there. Maybe there are 3, 4, 5 engineers working on a software company, and they have a GitLab running on a small machine, and it should work. So I think that it is important that this failed. It is important that it failed. It is the things that is not good is that when it fails is too late for us, right? So it's on the critical part.
Well, let's see. Just so you mark the upgrade release instance as a P1. Does it sound like that's not what we should be doing now? Like, are we actually seeing a genuine bug?
When I increased the priority, we still had no idea why it wasn't failing. Right?
Yeah.
So we say it fails. We had a release blocker issued, and Ruben said this already happened, so we know what is happening. No, we know what is happening. It already happened. So we say, okay, we should bump priority here because we found a problem 2 weeks ago, and this was P4 and not in any board, and no one knew about it. And that was why this should be P1. In the meantime, we were actually working on this. And so as initially that was framed as we need to upgrade the instance, or I don't know, doing what, it looks like it seems to be just a misconfiguration plus behavior change in the application with the major release.
So where we're lacking here is actually visibility on what's happening, actually.
Yeah.
Okay. So would you still rate this as a P1 now that you did investigation?
Well, I still have to complete a security release, which can't complete at the moment. I started packaging things more than 5 hours ago and I'm still packaging. So I would say I wouldn't remove no priorities from anything that is from me and the release right now. But
to break it down maybe more usefully, let's see, like what are the P1 tasks that we should, because bear in mind, like a P1 is we need to drop something else and refocus on this. So what do we, it sounds like we have 2 problems. Like, do we know what the configuration problem is on release?
Yeah, and I changed it. So
so
it rolled out. So we're trying to figure out if this concluded the issue or not.
Okay, awesome. And then in terms of the what broke, like the maybe the slightly genuine bug here, is quality looking into that already?
So basically what we're trying to do right now is to see if this was just it was the cause of this failure, so the misconfiguration, and knowing that the things has been always misconfigured. So if this was the root of the problem, and being the beginning of this error aligns with the first release of 16.0, then we know that, like, there are 2 options. They still don't know. Either something changed with the major release, or we enabled some quarantine tests or some more tests that are actually making use of the email feature. We don't know. So we are trying to, I mean, because at this moment, still we don't know if we resolve the issue or not, because what we're doing is we're playing one by one the QA job to make it pass, right? So it takes a lot of time. And so what we are hoping to see is complete the QA, move on with the release, then rerun the full QA altogether and see if now the machine can handle the load.
I see. Okay.
And then maybe trying to understand why it changed.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so let's hold off on doing other stuff then until we have the answer on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Should we also deploy to release instance more often so that we catch problems like this before they are critical?
That's the problem with release. In theory, one of the things that is testing is the patch upgrade on Omnibus. And so if we are putting RCs or something else there, we don't know.
Yeah, but I agree. I think the longer term is we get Graham back and we sort out the release environments project, and then we have kind of environments ready to go. I think until then, we probably just need to try and like debug these things as we go.
I mean, in any case, I think observability on that needs to be improved, no matter where we go. Definitely, probably depends what's the outcome of this. Maybe not as a one, but definitely something that we need to work on in the future.
Yeah, we also had a big moment of uncertainty when no one knew what to do, right? So should we raise an incident call for releases? Who owns releases? Will the EOC be able to do something if releases isn't working? So, and I mean, we were already trying to get the release out, and we had other problems, and then we had this layer of complexity about not even knowing what to do, right? So Cole, he had no ideas. The engineering Cole had no idea as well. Let me create an issue that we can start work on that, but I had no idea as well, right? So
I think for that one generally is we do own release, so we should figure out how we kind of spread some sort of skills and knowledge about release across the whole team and time zones. But I think generally, if ever you're stuck and it's blocking a release or a deployment, raise an incident, because the whole point of an incident is it's a way for us to escalate. So, you know, even if it's something that we fully own, if you need help and you need to help pull people in, then raise an incident. And we can coordinate there if we need to. Would it be worth, is there someone who could actually take on the action of create some issues for improving observability on release? Because I'm assuming those are relatively standard sort of like tasks. It doesn't particularly depend on the outcome of this release investigation, right? That's just environment observability.
Okay, if no one can take it here.
Michele and I will go discuss and we'll assign one of you.
Yes.
The usual person. Cool.
Okay, thank you for this. Alessio, please keep me posted if you have any discovery, so I can just look at it immediately. Any other topic to discuss before we jump to release management? No. Okay, release managers.
I can do it this week.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool. Let's see. Let me just have things open first of all. Let's see, deployment frequency, and I think that's about it. Okay, so let's take a look at, first of all, sharing my screen. Guessing everyone can see my Chrome tabs. Okay, so this was last week. We didn't have that many blockers as compared to the other previous weeks. There was a failure here, mostly just CI stuff, as you can see on the deploy blockers Yeah, just mainly just flaky stuff, some CI config changes that broke our CI pipelines, and yeah, and then we had a small hiccup with the security stable branch last Friday, but that was about it. Let me know if I'm missing anything to note about this graph other than those. And deployment frequency over the last month, we peaked at 5 deploys on June 1st. That's Thursday. I'm not sure what happened in that dip, May 31st. There seemed to have been something on May 31st, but can't really tell what that was right now. Does anyone know?
I was looking
On
at
which
my
day?
notes. We were doing the 31st. We were doing the approval for the backports for the security release. I don't know if we put more effort in the preparation of the security release, and maybe we also had, yeah, something that blocked deployment, because one looks really low. Let me see if I can.
Yeah, that looks really low. I vaguely recall there was a blocking CR that day, right? We should probably
Yes, there was the Redis one.
yeah, we should definitely capture that. I totally didn't, I forgot about that when I was filling out this graph. So I'll just redo that after this call. Cool, nice catch. Lead time last month. Nothing too abnormal, what we expect out of what we just saw. What else? We went over the deployment blockers, and yeah, that's about it. Anything you'd like to add?
I have a consideration, or maybe more of a ask for who have been in this shift recently. So today, dev is taking 5 hours to process each tag request. So building packages. I do remember in old issues, we had something like, and now you take some time off because it takes 80 minutes to build the package. 80 minutes is not 5 hours. So, and I remember I was complaining about this probably last week, because we did a lot of release last week as well. And I think that Steve told me, no, it usually takes around 3 hours. Again, 3 hours is not 5 hours. So anyone has any idea why tagging a security release for each tag is taking so long?
I noticed that it takes a while for jobs to be picked up by runner. They are just in these pending states. And when I was watching the security release or a patch release the other day, I noticed that it took at least 20 minutes to pick up a job. So if you put security packages, that time could pile up and could explain why it's taking longer. So perhaps it's not about building the packages, it is the time that it takes to initialize the pipeline and the whole jobs.
But this is the runner. So it stays in pending state until a valid runner that is designated for that pipeline can actually pick up that job. So this either means that, very likely means that we are at capacity in terms of the ability to build packages. And this reflects on auto deploy as well, right? Because then I noticed this still today. I had 3 package for the security release that we're building. I tried to stagger them a bit. I think I had left 1 hour between the first and the second, and 20 minutes between the second and the third. It wasn't really helping. And then the auto deploy package that happened after all of this, it ended up being in pending state when it was supposed to be complete. So it gave me that error about it's still running, and then I was checking the status and was still pending the generation of the build. And usually this is because the runner doesn't have capacity to pick up another job. So either we split those runners so that we have say an auto deploy dedicated runner that can pick up all the auto deploy package generation, and then we have another one for the releases.
Will it be more important to have a dedicated one for the release? Because
I
those
don't know
should take
how many
priority over
things this
the
is doing,
auto-deploy.
right? So
Yeah.
that's the thing, right? So one question, so if it's taking 5 hours because in generally spending 1 hour to pick up a job, then yeah, maybe just removing, because the amount of packages that we are building with a security release is huge. There are really a lot of packages there. So maybe that's enough. But yeah, I mean, it really depends on how many jobs those are running. So maybe they just run every type of build that happens on dev, and it's this same set of runners. So we can try to segment and give priorities.
Yeah, that sounds good. When you're through this release, Alessia, would you mind just sort of seeing if you can break that down a little bit into an issue, or like, even if it's an investigation issue, and then we can start trying to prioritize that?
So this is still owned by distribution.
Correct.
Okay, so
no,
I need
actually,
to.
no, it's technically owned by reliability. Technically.
The runners, so the
Oh,
runners.
sorry,
And
runners are not. No. Actually, maybe they are. Reliability have stable counterparts that work
Okay.
on runners. So I think let's get the issues created, and we can figure out
I
which.
can figure out the
which-
right audience.
Yeah,
to-
exactly.
Thanks.
Okay. Anything else on the recording?